guys, it's Emma and I'm back today for you with another video, and today I want to talk about the 26 books that I would like to read in 2026. I've never done this before on my channel and I just thought it'd be something fun to try. This list is just a list of books that I really want to prioritize during this year. I haven't added too many new releases simply because one, I already made a video about that, and two, it just felt a little bit too much. And these books are in no particular order as well. So, before we actually get started, I would really appreciate it if you guys would look down in the description box for all the links there that I have for you guys pertaining to stuff going on in the world right now. And those links will be down there for you guys to interact with and to share. And then down in the comment section, let me know whether or not these books are on y'all's TBR, what books y'all want to prioritize this year, what books you don't want to prioritize this year, anything of the sort, right? So with that being said, let's just get right on into it. In 2026, I have FOMO, okay? I really want to read Bride and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. They're both supernatural romances.
Sam!
We got a vampire and a werewolf, and then a vampire and I think a human hybrid or something like that. I'm so excited. I love werewolf romances. They're like my favorite type of monster romance in general. Honestly, they're my favorite romance in general. I am just a diehard werewolf girl, and I've heard so many good things about both of these. I really want to try it. I've already made a video on the 2026 new releases so far that I want to read. So if you want more in-depth thoughts about any of these that I mentioned in this video, go check that video out. But these are the new releases that I really want to read this year, okay? So we're just gonna get them all out of the way real quick. First off, I really want to read Cleopatra by Sara El-Arifi this year. I love Sara El-Arifi, and I'm so excited to see what she does with this. I think it's a historical fantasy. Either way, I'm pumped. And then I really want to read Sisters of the Lizard by Jackson Ford. This is the sequel to The Bone Raiders, which was one of my top 5 books that I read last year. I really want to read the next Fae Alchemy book by Callie Hart. I read both Quicksilver and Brimstone last year. Can't lie, Brimstone was a massive disappointment, and honestly, depending on how the third book goes, I might just DNF the series. Then I want to read Veilweaver by Sophia Slade. This is the sequel to Nightstrider, and I have been waiting for Veilweaver to come out since I read Nightstrider somewhere around March or something like that, okay? I am so excited for this book. The Harpy Knight by Sara Omer is gonna hate to see my dumbass walk into that Barnes & Noble. This is the sequel to The Griffin King, which I also read last year, and it was one of the best books I read. Like, literally one of the top political fantasies I have ever read. Oh my gosh. We have The Thief and His Traitor Bride by V.L. Bovalino. I about had a heart attack when I found out that it finally had a title in that video where I'm talking about all the new releases I want to read in 2026. This book is genuinely going to be either the life or the death of me. This is the sequel to The Second Death of Locke, which was my favorite book that I read throughout the entirety of last year. Then, of course, I want to read The Knave and the Moon by Rachel Gillig. This is the sequel to The Night and the Moth. I heard this was going to be a duology, and therefore The Knave and the Moon is going to be the last book, and I about had a panic attack. Because, what? Just based on how The Night and the Moth ended, am I gonna be in pain when I finish The Knave and the Moon? Probably. The Witch Without Memory by Maithree Wijesekara. All right, this is the sequel to The Prince Without Sorrow, which I read last year, and is one of the most refreshing fantasies that I've ever read. I am hoping that the second book is gonna be a little bit better, all right, because as much as I loved The Prince Without Sorrow, there was a huge plot hole that was just never addressed. And so I'm hoping that plot hole is gonna be addressed. And then the last new release that is on my list is The Tapestry of Fate by Shannon Chakraborty. I'm not gonna lie, I completely forgot that The Adventures of Amina El-Arifi is supposed to be a series. So the second I was reminded of that by seeing this kick-ass cover, I was so excited. Another book that I really want to read at some point or another in 2026 is Shogun by James Clavell. I have part 1. How many pages is this actually? 670 something. This is about an Englishman named John Blackthorne who is shipwrecked in 17th century feudal era Japan, and he is thrust into the world of warring Japanese lords trying to get power. I watched the TV show and I loved it. I don't really watch TV very much anymore, if I'm gonna be completely honest. But when I do, oh wow, am I looking for a banger? And Shogun was a fucking banger.
This is art, Mr. White.
I loved that show. I loved all the characters, how smart and brave they were, just how much political intrigue is in that show. I love having to keep up with so many different plot lines, and especially when those plot lines all come together, I find that so satisfying, and it just makes your story that much more complex. Not to mention, just the way they play with languages in Shogun is awesome. And of course, when I found out that it was a book, I have to read the book. I'm gonna be damn sure that if I love part 1, I'm picking up part 2, lickety split. I also really want to read The Devil by Name by Keith Rosson. This is the sequel to Fever House, where essentially these 2 leg breakers go in to get drug money from this one dude, and in this dude's fridge they find a severed human hand, and anybody close to this hand is immediately struck with just this bloodthirsty rage. And we follow these characters as this hand gets deeper and deeper into the city, and more people start to be affected by it, and this Black Ops organization comes out of the woodworks to try and get the hand. Oh my gosh, it was just so good. And this is the ending in the duology, I believe. All I have to say is I am so excited to, 1, end the duology, and also to get closure, because the way the first book ended was just wild. It's just peak religious horror, and it's got a really interesting twist on zombies. This book I have really high hopes for. I'm not normally a rereader, but I have 1 or 2 books that I really want to refresh myself with. One of them being Dread Nation by Justina Ireland. This is an alternate history book set during the Civil War, when zombies start to walk the battlefields of Gettysburg and Shiloh and everything else. And it essentially derails the Civil War. And our main character, Jane, is a black girl who, amongst other black children and Native American children, have been trained in combat. And Jane is studying to become an attendant, essentially a bodyguard for a rich white person. But Jane doesn't want that. She wants to go back home to Kentucky, and when the people of Baltimore start to go missing, Jane is caught in the conspiracy. This is also a duology, and I remember really liking this one and kind of liking the second one, but I really want to reread this, because I remember thinking that it was really cool the way that the story was being told and just the way the alternate history was worked. I really want to see if I still like this book. I think I am going to, but if I do, I wanted my own copy. I so badly want to read the novelization of the 2014 Godzilla movie, alright, by Greg Cox. This is the novelization of the 2014 Godzilla movie, where Godzilla makes himself known to the world, and I...
Just stop playing. I mean, if they give me one right now, tear it up live.
I love reading novelizations of the movies that I really like, or I just like reading the books that my favorite movies were based on. I find it really cool to see either where the story started or what was kind of done to the story that maybe couldn't have been portrayed as a movie. I really find that fascinating. The 2014 Godzilla movie, you really can't get any better. It just makes Godzilla look gargantuan. The scaling for this movie is amazing. The shots of this movie are awesome. The soundtrack, just the way this movie is shot, makes Godzilla look awesome. I love this movie, and I so badly want to read the novelization. Another book that I really want to read during 2026 is Red Rabbit by Alex Grecian. I don't really remember much about this book because this book has literally been on my TBR fossilizing, okay? But from what I remember, it's supposed to be a Western horror, and we are following a bunch of bounty hunters who are trying to get the bounty placed on a girl named Sadie's head. If you've seen me talking about the Buffalo Hunter or Little Heaven or Lone Women, I love, first of all, just Westerns in general. I love Westerns, but Western horrors, there's just something about it. It's such a unique genre, and one that, in my humble opinion, really isn't explored enough, but what do I know? I'm just a kitten caught in a tree. Nevertheless, Red Rabbit, I'm hoping that it's going to be action-packed, and I really hope that the horror elements blend well into the Western elements. Another book that I want to prioritize for 2026 is The Reformatory by Tananarive Due. This is set in Florida during 1950, where we follow 12-year-old Robbie, who has been sent to an institution for kicking the son of a very rich landowner in defense of his sister. And as Robbie stays at the institution, he begins his journey into the true terrors of the Jim Crow South, as well as learning what the real horrors are contained in the school they call the Reformatory. And Robbie can see ghosts, and what used to be a comfort for him now truly shows what happens at the Reformatory. I really want to prioritize Gothic books in this year, and this is supposed to be Southern Gothic. I love Southern Gothic books. R.A. Dread Nation is one, Ring Shout is one, and I remember for one of my college classes, we briefly discussed Tananarive Due in regards to black horror, and oh my gosh, I just cannot wait to sink my teeth into this story. I feel like it's going to be incredibly emotional, incredibly unsettling. I have such high hopes for the paranormal aspect in here. I'm very intrigued, but at the same time, I'm very intimidated. The next book that I have on this list to prioritize in 2026 is The Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman. The main reason why I picked this up was because it sounds like it's going to be a night book, which I found I really, really do enjoy medieval style fantasy, okay? Especially because last year was, quite frankly, the year of the Lady Knight. So I think this is going to contribute to night literature for me, as well as the simple fact that this is the same guy who wrote Between Two Fires, which, quite frankly, wrecked me when I read it. Between Two Fires is one of my favorite horror books of all time. I absolutely adore that story. The character work, the full circle aspect of the entire story, just I love Between Two Fires. And so I'm really hoping that The Black Tongue Thief will maybe give me a similar feeling. I'm fully expecting a gritty night story from The Black Tongue Thief. Another book that I am making myself prioritize in 2026 is Kaikeyi by Vaishnavi Patel. This is about Kaikeyi, who is a character from the legendary epic, the Ramayana. I did some basic studying of the Ramayana for one of my college courses, and when I found out that there was a book centered around one of the characters of the Ramayana, I was so excited. I have not touched this book in so long. It has been, like Red Rabbit, honestly more than Red Rabbit, fossilizing on my TBR cart. So I really want to read this, especially because I've heard so many great things about this book. I really enjoy books taking specific characters, maybe not main ones, from world-renowned epics and making their own stories. I find that so fascinating. I love seeing what people can do, and I'm so excited to read Kaikeyi. This next one was actually one that I was supposed to read last year. This was on my 10 before the end, and that is Dracula by Bram Stoker. This is about Jonathan Harker, who takes a new banking client named Count Dracula, and he goes over to his castle, and vampiric shenanigans ensue.
They say you are a man of good taste.
This is like the Gothic novel, or one of the Gothic novels. Like I said, with The Reformatory, I really want to prioritize Gothic novels in 2026 because I found that I really do enjoy reading them. I want to annotate it as well because we also discussed this in one of my college classes, the same class actually where we talked about Tananarive Due. I cannot wait to get into one of the most influential vampire novels. We have another brick. Okay, because I really want to read When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker in 2026, okay? This is about dragons, fae, I think an assassin, I don't know. I've also had this one on my TBR cart for a while. I've quite frankly been afraid to touch this book simply because the ratings and the reviews that I've seen have been quite divisive. Either people love this book and want to put it in a trophy case, or people despise this book and want to run it over with their car. But I really want to try it out. It sounds like it could be up my alley, just the amount of pages is really getting to me, and the bigger the book, the higher the probability of some parts not being naturally slow parts in the story and therefore being artificially slow parts that just drag. I am quite nervous about that, but apparently from what I've been hearing, the second book is coming out this year. So if I like this book, I probably won't have to wait that long for the second book. I'm always looking for another book that will make me fall back in love with dragons again. I can't lie, because I've said this in quite a few of my recent videos. Dragons for me, in terms of ferocious beasts, have unfortunately felt copy-paste, copy-paste, copy-paste lately, but again, like I said, I'm always looking for a book that will make me fall back in love with dragons, because dragons, one of the most, if not the most, iconic ferocious beast in fantasy. So I am hoping I decently like this one. This one is also one that has been stewing, marinating on my TBR, and that is Notes of a Crocodile by Qiu Miaojin. This is set during the post-martial law era of 1980s Taipei, and we follow our characters as they go through a coming-of-age story discovering love, identity, and artistic affinity, while also hardly studying at Taiwan's most prestigious university. First off, I cannot lie, I picked up this book because of the cover. I don't remember if I've ever read a book that is actually set in Taiwan, and that really interests me. I've heard amazing things, not to mention it's less than 300 pages. I'm very excited to finally get it off of my TBR, and to possibly put it on my shelf. We have Wolf Gone Wild by Juliet Cross. This is another werewolf romance. I am fully envisioning 2026 to be the year of sequels and werewolf romances. I really want to read this book because it just sounds like it's going to be a fun, light-hearted werewolf romance, despite a lot of the other werewolf romances that I have read in my life. I really came home with werewolf romances, or just monster romances in general, and I would really, really love to get back into the swing of werewolf romance, and I feel like this is just gonna be a great little stepping stone into it. We're getting towards the end of the list, but number 24 is Whale Fall by Daniel Kraus. This is about a guy who, while out on the ocean, gets swallowed by a whale, and he has an hour before his oxygen tank runs out in order to get out of the whale. What?
What on earth is going on in the House of Commons?
I like books that just have the most whack premise, and yet when you open it, you're just sucker punched with something that you genuinely never thought you would get out of a premise like that. I always find that so fun and, quite frankly, very masterful in the way of conveying art. Based on the other parts of the story that I think are going to be in here, I feel like this book is going to be really emotional, really trippy as well, because girl, what do you mean he has to probably go through all 4 of a sperm whale's stomachs? That's wild. I wonder if they're gonna bring any bit of Pinocchio into this book as well. Whale Fall sounds like it is just going to be so weird and at the same time so excitingly fascinating. Number 25, another book that I really want to prioritize is another sequel, and that is Harbor by Rebecca Weatherspoon. This is the 3rd book in the Beards and Bondage series. I read both Haven, book number 1, and Sanctuary, book number 2, last year. I didn't really vibe with Haven particularly because I found the romance in there to be a little bit too codependent, and I found it to be a little bit too rushed. Like, what do you mean? You knew this guy seemingly for what, 2-3 months, and now you want to get married? Wild. And then Sanctuary, the 2nd book, in my opinion, is the best of the 2 that I've read. We have the main character from the 1st book, and we have her best friend as the main character in the 2nd book, and then we have her younger sister, I believe, as the main character for the 3rd book. And the 3rd book, I think, is polyamorous. Harbor is the main reason why I even wanted to read this series anyway, because I remember Mina from Mina Reads talking about it, and from what I remember, she had good things to say. So I looked it up, I was like, oh man, it's the 3rd book? Okay, well let's read the 1st and the 2nd ones. And I listened to the 1st and the 2nd ones on audiobook. Now I can finally read the 3rd book. I feel like this one is going to be just as dark as the first 2 were, but I'm hoping that it'll be handled like the second book was and not like the first book. And then the last book that I would like to prioritize for 2026 is The Wager by David Grann. This is a historical nonfiction book about this ship called the Wager that wrecked on this desolate island in Patagonia, and two different groups of survivors made rafts, and one of them landed on the coast of Brazil and the other landed on the coast of Chile, and both have very different stories about the other. And this is supposedly a story about mutiny, and I am so excited about this book. Okay, I have really been wanting to get further into historical nonfiction ever since I read David Grann's Killers of the Flower Moon. This book sounds like it's gonna be kind of, you know, uneasy at first and then go so deep and peel back so many layers and so many secrets and so many just batshit things are going to have happened. And after The Wager, I have quite a few other historical nonfiction books that I want to read, including Dan Jones' The Plantagenets and also Susan Williams' White Malice, along with a few others. As a history buff, I'm just really excited to get more into historical nonfiction. I have so many other books lined up. So you guys, those were the 26 books that I would like to read in 2026. I hope that you've enjoyed. I'm gonna say the same thing that I said for my worst and best books of 2025 videos. I hope that we all, one, can finish the books that we want to, and I hope that we all can read books that we love in 2026. So you guys, with that being said, I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you continue to look out for more stuff on my channel. I hope that you guys are staying safe. And lastly, I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.